Beautiful.
Okay. Ooh. Good.
Hari Om, Namaste.
My namaskars to all. It is a delight and a great honor to be here again. And so good to see some old and some new faces. We will start with the opening prayer and then launch into the talk. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. May the great being protect us both. Even though there will be many people in the room, it is always one-on-one transmission. So it is always us both. The dual form is used in the Sanskrit language. May the great being nourish our bodies, nourish us both. Nourishment is important for the body because the body is a vehicle for moksha, freedom from samsara. Samsara means a life of constantly becoming something or the other. I want to become full, I want to become famous, I want to become whole, I want to be free, I want to become something or the other. Whole life is like that. And so, this prayer is for protection of the mind, the body, and also for nourishment of the body and the mind. That's the second line. The third line says, may our studies be brilliant. And the fourth line says, may we accomplish great things together. What is there to accomplish? Really, other than to know that there is really nothing left to accomplish once I know I am free of the constant need for accomplishment. Then the last line says, may we not misunderstand one another. May we understand one another exactly as we are supposed to. And then the prayer, like all other Vedic prayer, ends with a threefold Shanti. In fact, that's why it is called Shanti Patha. This threefold Shanti is important because the threefold Shanti is for freedom from disturbance from three sources or three kinds of disturbance. The first disturbance is from acts beyond our control, floods, earthquakes, etc. The second disturbance is from the people around us and our immediate surroundings. For example, one can come to the talk and then one looks around and says, I know why I am here, but why is this other idiot also here? And in that moment, the Mahavakya Tattvam Asi has been explained and is over. I missed it because I was not worried. I was not so much concerned about my own enlightenment as I was trying to micromanage somebody else's enlightenment. And so that is the middle Shanti, the second Shanti. The third Shanti is for freedom from myself. Myself means my own mind, my own emotions, my own fears, my own tears. In fact, self-knowledge happens when we get out of the way, and in fact, if anything happens at all, it is in spite of ourselves, not because of ourselves. So, this is the very beautiful opening prayer. And then I did not know what I was going to talk about, and I read the description, and whoever wrote it, I must commend them because they have put down the whole Vedanta essence to be accomplished in the next 5 sessions. But the nice thing about Vedanta is that it can be compact or it can stretch. Like Lord Rama's plane. Lord Rama had a plane which he got after he vanquished the king of Sri Lanka. And that plane was called Pushpaka. It could be a 2-seater or a 10-seater, a 12-seater, a 15-seater. And so similarly, Vedanta is like that. So we will see how much of the topics mentioned in the description we can cover comfortably. But the nice thing is that nothing is left out, because what we receive from our gurus and what we impart is always the whole. So there is not the first portion of Brahman today, The second portion of Brahman tomorrow does not exist because Brahman has no parts at all. So with these words, we will dive in with a question. A question that is asked in all the Upanishads in different ways. The Upanishad is the primary text of self-knowledge revealed by the Lord to sages in states of contemplation whose minds were evolved from the pressure of trying to get their own way, evolved from the desires of certain outcomes and certain things they wanted, needed, evolved out of a survival mode in which most of us are at any given time of the day. Somebody asked me, can I also channel an Upanishad? Of course you can. If we have the same mindset as the rishis of the past, we can also do that. And then the Upanishad gives the knowledge of the self in two ways. First, it negates what the self is not, and then it reiterates what the self is. These are the two primary methodologies which you have heard of, I am sure. The first one, the negation, is called neti neti. Not what you do with a pot, putting the water up the nose. No. This is a different thing, okay? Na iti, na iti. It is not thus. It is not thus. This is a very funny methodology because this is not true of anything that we see or interact with in the world. Like, for example, even this glass of water. So holding it up to you, I don't have to say, this is not an airplane, this is not a tree, this is not a building, this is not a pot, this is not a pan, this is not a spoon. And then at the end I say, what is this? This is a glass. We don't need to do this with anything in the universe. We don't need to do this at all. So the negation becomes an important methodology whenever there is a mistake. And we have a stock example for the mistake, snake and rope. Snake and rope. Our wonderful stock example is that of snake and rope. The question is, when is the rope mistaken for a snake? Not all the time. Sometimes I can see the rope as a rope, and sometimes I mistake it for a snake, and so we have to see this. And it becomes very evident that the snake mistake happens when the rope is not understood as rope. Maybe at twilight, When the light is dim, can't see very well. I see that there is something there on the grass, but I do not know what it is. The mind projects a reality that is not there. A subjective reality is projected on top of the thing that I cannot cognize. And because it cannot be cognized, it becomes scary. It cannot be properly cognized. It becomes scary because the projected fear is in the form of the snake, and there is a desire to run away from that which is the object of the fear. Now, I can't mistake the rope for the snake in broad daylight because I see the rope as rope. I can't mistake the rope for a snake in the dead of the night on a no moon night, Amavasya. Why? Because I see neither rope nor snake. I don't see either of them. No rope, no projection. Projection in Sanskrit, interestingly, is called aropa. No rope, no aropa. And so too it is with the self. This self that I want to know is mired in two kinds of issues. The first one is ajnana, ignorance, and the second one is anyatha jnana, wrong knowledge. So the ignorance is something that every being, every jiva, the individual has on this earth, or wherever life forms may exist. Ignorance means I don't know my nature. That is the ignorance. And then, with all the animals, etc., the animal jivas, the ignorance is confined to just this fact: I don't know myself. The dog does not know. It is also non-separate from the whole. It is actually God. It does not know. The cat does not know and does not care also. And so too, all the animals also have ajnana, ignorance of the self, but they seem to be happier than all of us put together. Where I live, in Rishikesh, it's just full of the friendliest dogs that you have seen. Yeah. I often feel that they should have a board on their neck. Beware of most affectionate dog, it should say. Yeah, you can't make eye contact. If you make eye contact, it's all over. As in, they are all over you. Yeah. They just give you a hug. They put their paws up here, they stand up. So, if you don't have time for that, you just pretend to not look at them. They are happy. Even the three-legged one, And we don't know his story or her story. We don't know where she lost the leg. Did she come under a car or was it because of a fight? We don't know. But even with the 3 legs, she's jumping around, happy, much happier than a person, a human being. This goes to show that simple ajnanam, meaning not knowing the truth of who I am, that I am actually whole, limitless, free from seeking something or the other. I am actually an appreciative, non-demanding, objective, contented, and free person, accommodative, compassionate person. I want to be this, I want to be all these things, but I don't know that I am already all these things. The dog also doesn't know that it is all these things. Because really speaking, there is only one self, the I in you and the I in me, the I in he and the I in she is just one. What causes the problems associated with ignorance is wrong knowledge. This wrong knowledge happens only in the case of the human being, in whom Mother Nature gave full freedom to be a self-conscious person, conscious of oneself completely and conscious of everything around one. That same self-consciousness is there in other life forms also, but it is inhibited, it is finite, limited, in the sense that this self-consciousness, self-awareness is confined to recognizing beings of the same species for the purposes of propagation and recognizing beings from other species for the purposes of protection. But we are not like that. We have so much more. I am self-evident and everything becomes evident to me. And this self-awareness is so uninhibited and so free that I become free enough to have a judgment centered on the self. A judgment? No. Make that 1,000,000 judgments. I'm not fond of myself. There is always some complex. People say, I don't like how I look. And then, what else? I don't like how I talk. And in fact, nobody likes me. I am wanting. Every which way, I am not okay. Somehow things are going on. That is how it is. And there is a sign for that. How is life? What does this mean? I don't know. So? Yeah? Or I'm on the brink of a precipice, about to fall. Maybe that too, I don't know. So for everything, it's the same sign. How is the job? Pay is good, commute is bad. Work is good, but the boss is not okay. How are the children? Meaning, now they are teenagers, so don't really ask any more questions. How is the marriage? Everything is on the brink because I have self-ignorance. It's all centered on I. Vedanta is all about me, 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 me. But not the me that one likes to coddle, not the me which is the ahankara, the ego, not the me which is wanting something or the other all the time, but the me that is free, whole, full. That is what this fullness I want to discover. That is why we have a two-pronged methodology. First, we have to remove the notions centered on this I that I have internalized, and then only we can see what this self is about. And so this is what the Upanishad does. And the Upanishad is in the form always of a dialogue. Because this knowledge is not a matter for belief. You are the whole, you are Satchidananda. I believe you, teacher. You cannot say that. It's something to discover. It's something to inhabit. It's something to enjoy for oneself. It's something to know. It is like an equation. Just like the theory of relativity, what does it say? E equals mc squared. And somebody trying to understand this equation cannot say, you look really bright and I believe you. You look really brainy and you must be right. No. One has to discover this oneself. Here too, one has to make this self-discovery with the help of the teacher. The teacher is a mic of the Upanishad, amplifies and simplifies the teaching so that it can be understood. And the teacher is the one who has undergone the teachings themselves. Just like therapy. You cannot become a psychologist without undergoing therapy yourself. And it differs. In different countries, there may be different number of hours that one has to undergo therapy before being let loose on the population. You cannot say, I have no issues, I have no mommy issues, I have no daddy issues, I'm ready to cure everyone else. That will not do. If you want your license, you have to undergo therapy yourself. You have to be in the hot seat of knowing what it is like to deal with the issues and come out on the other side. You may not be an expert on everything, but you have an idea what the methodology is. What somebody else who comes to you may be undergoing. So the Vedanta teacher is also like that. The Vedanta teacher doesn't drop from the sky and or is born, enlightened, has no issues whatsoever. That is not the teacher that we want. In fact, it's a lineage heavy instruction. We derive strength from the whole lineage of gurus. Asmadacharya paryantam vande guru paramparam. I salute the entire lineage, starting with Adi Shankaracharya, who was not the founder of this tradition, but who was a bright light, a bright teacher, a very enlightened, clear teacher, communicator of the tradition. Starting with Lord Shiva, starting with Adi Shankara, up to my own teacher, I salute the lineage of gurus. So the teacher is a mouthpiece of the Upanishad. And in fact, in India, if somebody says, especially in Rishikesh and other cities like this where half the population is in orange, if you go and say to somebody, I got this knowledge all by myself. In fact, they are not interested in your name. They don't ask you for your name. They don't care what you have accomplished. They ask only one question: who is your teacher? Who was your teacher? And if you say, what teacher? I got this knowledge all by myself. They just back away slowly. Okay? It's the same reaction in the West when somebody says, I think I'm coming down with a cold. So, therefore, this is a very special knowledge and a special teaching, and we can be sure that the teacher who is teaching also has undergone a complete, a rewiring of sorts. The teacher also had ajnana. The teacher also dispelled his or her own ajnana under her teacher, who dispelled his or her own ajnana under his teacher, who dispelled his or her own ajnana under her teacher, his teacher, her teacher, his teacher, all the way to the Lord. There's something very beautiful about that. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. There is no pressure to somehow become famous, to shine, to show people what I can do. No need. I can just be. I can just be a conduit. Just like the teacher before me, and the teacher before that, and the teacher before that. It's somehow extremely freeing. It's very, very nice. And in this Upanishad, therefore, we have a dialogue between a student, a prospective student, and a teacher. For this reason alone, to show that this is how the knowledge is gained. It is gained through questions, it is gained through understanding rather than matter for belief. And in all the Upanishads, most of them anyway, the student's question is something like this. O teacher, teach me that knowledge through which everything in the world is as well known, as well understood. This is a very interesting thing. In the world, if I know one thing, if I know the mic, I do not know the computer. If I know the table on which the computer sits, I don't know something else. So the knowledge of one thing does not lead to the knowledge of all things ever. So for the student to ask that question itself shows the level of introspection and emotional and inner maturity that the person would have undergone. Just very, very big. Teach me that knowledge through which everything is as well as known. This kind of a question comes in one way or the other in all the Upanishads. Shaunaka, the student, asked the Guru Angiras this question in the Mundaka Upanishad. And the same question is also asked in the 6th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad. But this time not by the student, but by the teacher. The teacher asked this question because the student, Shvetaketu, is being very, very complacent and says, I don't need to know anything else. I'm just out of university, Gurukula. I had a perfect GPA. I am the best and the smartest. There's nothing more for me to know. What is there to know? Nothing more for me to know. I know everything. And the teacher says, did you ask your teacher, the teacher of the Upanishad, his own father says, did you ask the teachers in the Gurukula for that knowledge, knowing which everything is as well known? And we have a similar iteration of this question with a slightly different twist in the Kena Upanishad, where the unnamed student asks the unnamed teacher, Kena ishitam preshitam patati manaha. How do the thoughts form in the mind? Who puts them there? How do the thoughts fall in the mind? So that means the student has done a little bit of research. The student knows, oh, I'm not in charge of my own thoughts. That's why I have a runaway mind. It runs away without me. Most of the time it has gone somewhere else. And so who puts these thoughts in the mind? And then how does the pranic functions, respiration, digestion, circulation, how do they take place? How do they take place? And then, who puts the word in my mouth? Who puts words in my mouth? Because there too there is a kind of a runaway kind of a thing. The tongue runs away before I can think and says a lot of things I did not mean. Who causes the eyes to see? And who causes the ears to hear? Like this, all these questions point to two things. One is that there is a master key, a master knowledge, which is like a key which opens up everything else. There is one thing to know, and that thing, if it is known, then Satyamasti, this life is worth living. Satyamasti. Iha cheda vedit, atha satyamasti. The life becomes meaningful and purposeful. Na chediha avedit. If I don't know this in this life, mahati vinashtihi. Mahati vinashtihi means it's an infinite loss. The loss of the infinite is indeed an infinite loss. And so, that is the first thing we glean from these kinds of questions asked again and again and again, either by the teacher or by the student. In the Chandogya Upanishad, in the 7th chapter also, the teacher points this out to the student. The teacher is Sanat Kumara, one of the sages sitting at the feet of Lord Dakshinamurti, and then the student is Narada, again a very erudite sage. Narada approaches Sanat Kumara and says, I have studied that a lot of things, and I have understood that there is something missing because I still am subject to grief. Lot of grief is there. And this grief, I have heard that from people like you, that you can dispel. So please teach me this knowledge. The teacher wants to know where to begin. Because Narada is already knowing so much. So the teacher asked, should we start with A for Atma, B for Brahman, C for Chit, or should we start at a graduate level course, postgraduate, postdoctoral? Where do we start? And then, I joke not, Narada gives 1.5 pages of terse qualifications without a full stop. He rattles them off. I know Rig Veda, I know Yajur Veda, I know Sama Veda, I know Atharva Veda, I know pronunciation, I know how to do rituals, I know this, I know that, I know fortune telling, I know astronomy, I know astrology, I know how to, I know the art of warfare, I know how to do this, I know how to do that, I know plumbing, I know electricity, I know this, I know that. Keeps on going, I know AI. Finally he stops. and then the teacher patiently listens and then says, I know, now after hearing what all you know, I know that you know a whole lot of nothing. Yeah. You don't know that one thing because of which all these things are. You know a whole lot of nothing, Narada. And there is not much difference between a whole lot of nothing and a little bit of nothing. It's still nothing. What is the difference? No difference. You just know a whole lot of nothing at all. And that's why you grieve. This brings us to the second point. When we understand these questions, the first point is what? The first point is that there is some kind of a master key, knowing which everything is understood. And the second point of this is that there is some kind of a cause-effect connection between that thing and then that which I need to know and everything else. That everything else is, in a way, effect, and that thing that I need to know, which makes everything worthwhile, is what? The cause. So this is the second thing that we know. Very, very interesting, very beautiful. And so now the whole idea is to know that one thing because of which everything is, because of which everything is sustained, because of which everything is resolved, because of which everything comes to be. And this one thing people go mad looking for. It goes by various names. God. And as soon as you say the word God, you look up and then you have a neck pain because you're looking up. God or some principle. If not God, at least maybe it's the God particle. That in physics they have this God particle. So some kind of a master thing that because of which everything is. What Vedanta teaches us is that thing which you are looking for is yourself alone. This is a very big turn that we have to make. It's a U-turn in the sense that you turn finally to face you. That is what is called a U-turn. From looking everywhere and looking at everything, we settle for the finite in the hope that it will become infinite, because we do not know two things. We do not know the finite as finite, and we do not know ourselves as the infinite that we seek, as that which I want. The infinite, we don't even have a concept of it. Perhaps mathematically we have a concept, that to which we cannot add anything, that from which we cannot subtract anything. Yes, mathematically we have a concept, but not beyond that. And so this is what has to be understood, this is what has to be known. And this is not something I can do myself. Why not? Because the means of knowing that I have are, like all the things in the universe, also finite. I can see something, I can hear, I can touch, taste, smell. These are called the direct means of perception, pratyaksha pramana. This is good enough for knowing things in the world, but it is not good to know the nature of the knower. Not at all good to know the nature of the knower. Absolutely not good, not enough. Because I am not an object. I am the truth. I am the subject, which cannot be ever objectified. This is the problem. Then based on these primary means of knowledge, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, etc., we have a few other ways of knowing. What are they? Anumana, inference. If I wake up in the morning and everything, all the roads around are wet, what do I conclude? It must have rained. Did I see the rain? No. But based on this, I concluded that. If I see a mountain and it has smoke, what do I conclude? There is fire. Because wherever there is smoke, what is there? There is fire. How do I know this? Because I have experimented in my own kitchen. From my own kitchen knowledge and disasters, I know this. So I can infer. And sometimes we have a little more complicated inference. Multi-step inference, which is used in medical science a lot of the time. Like what? If it works on a rat, it should work on you and me. Yes. It's a very big inference. I'm simplifying it, but it involves many, many, many steps. Multi-step inference. And then we also have a way of understanding one thing which is like something else. There is one known entity, and then there is one unknown entity, and then you use the known entity to understand the unknown entity. You can say, oh, this tastes just like that, except for a few differences. And then if you know what the first thing that you tasted is, the other thing can be understood. That's also one more means of knowledge called upama, comparison. And then finally we have the cognition of absence. Is there a book in my hand? You will say, no, there is no book in your hand. It's not absolute absence. It is the absence of a particular object in a particular place. This also is a means of knowing. Which of these means of knowing shall we deploy to know myself, oneself? Can I see the self? Say no, so we can move on. Can I see the self? No. Can I hear? No. Some people say, oh, in deep states of meditation, some unheard sound comes, that's the self. No, that's not the self, that's digestive juices adjusting. Yes, no. Especially if you meditate after brunch. Okay? Yeah. You can't use the direct means of knowing. You can't use inference. Somebody tried. The philosopher called Descartes tried that. He said in the beginning, what did he say? I think, therefore I must exist. I am. Thankfully he changed it later on to say what? I am, that's how I can think. Inference, it's not under the hands of inference. This knowledge cannot be in the hands of the comparison because there is only one self, as we pointed out. What can you compare it to? No comparison possible. And then finally, cognition of absence. If I say the self is absent, who is the one cognizing? Am I present or not? Yes. There is an undeniable presence there because of which all absences are cognized. So all the means of knowing that I have in my hand are useless. Oh no, what shall we do? better say the closing prayer and continue next time. And next time is when? Tomorrow at noon? Yes, so we will be meeting twice a day at noon and then at again 8 o'clock. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.